Chapter 1. One boy, 25 girls. Little boys and girls really are small. I mean the ones between about 4 and 7. So small you probably wouldn't even notice them. If you bothered and if you talked to them a bit, or rather let them talk to you, you might think they were surprisingly funny, or rude, or extremely intelligent for their age. You'd be very surprised. But why? They're just a miniature version of you, of all of us. Most of what they're at or where they're going is in the DNA, so say the experts. It might not be believable for most of the time. After all, they need care and love more than those more senior of us. That's mostly because they're physically smaller and weaker, and of course because they don't have the most golden of things, experience. And all of this is all too easy to forget, isn't it? Mostly the modern excuse is that we're all too busy. That's rubbish, of course. We just can't be bothered. That's the real reason. We forget ourselves all too often. Forget who we are, where we come from, how we feel, how we felt, how we were young once. There's always far too much to worry about now to worry about then. In any case, there's nothing to gain, to learn from. Nostalgia's just trash, isn't it? When we come to look at those cutesy little brats, we've already forgotten ourselves. Most of us can't remember what time of day it is, let alone what it felt like to be young. Well, I can tell you this. Kids of 4 are nobody's fools. They know whether you've made a mistake by buying that dress you think goes rather well with your eyes. They know it hugs you a little bit too tightly. Or that car Dad bought. What was he thinking? And they understand that their siblings are conniving, thieving, selfish tosspots who should go find a lake and jump in it. They're 4. They know the score. And I, for one, was 4 and pretty much in charge. I could carry on a conversation with uncles, cousins and aunts as well as anyone. In any case, they all talked to me because they loved me. They loved me because I was so well behaved, a nice boy. So nice, in fact, that when I was 6 months old, they'd say I was so quiet and serene that something must be wrong with me. So Mum used to say, frequently. I smiled a lot, just about every day. There'd be someone for me to smile at. At nursery school I had my girly friends and my boysy friends. They liked me. I smiled at them. Well, most of them. There was a girl called Mary who was peevish to everyone, but she doesn't really count. I still smiled at her. Actually, I was in love with her, but that's another story. No, apart from her, everyone liked me and loved me. Jasper loved me. Buffy loved me. Ian loved me. Becky loved me. I smiled at them. I loved them back. My parents loved me. Even my sisters loved me to an acceptable extent, I thought. I'd experienced all the lovely things you can do up until 4. I'd been on holidays many times. Fabulous places. Crackington Haven, Lyme Regis, the Lake District, Portmeirion. I lived in a big house all on its own. I'd been given my own record player with a whole case of colourful 45s. I had a toy dog that did cartwheels and had my own milk truck. I might have chewed the bottles to nothingness, but I still had that truck. And I could play the pianola better than anyone, anywhere. It was all set up, ready for the next stage of my life. They called it school. It'd be easy. Oh, it was, it really was. And it was the best place, but it was the worst place too. It wasn't the school was perfect. It was the decision to send me there in the first place, because at 4 years, 10 months and 20 days, Peter, the completely happy and in control little boy, was sent to a girls' school. You don't know it's all about a change at the time, of course. Of course you don't. One day you're learning to tie your shoelaces, the next to tie. The day after that, you've tried it all on. The crisp nylon shirt, blue and green tie, green V-neck jumper with the green and blue neckband, the shorts, the cap, there you go, the perfect little schoolboy. Except, no, you don't know it's all about to change. That is a little strange. In fact, the first time I was there, it was all very normal, actually. For some reason, I remember it clearly, though I'm really not sure why. It wasn't a particularly eventful day. It was the open day, possibly a couple of weeks before the school opened for autumn term. I was just sitting there in the sandpit, with Mum gassing to a stranger. You'd have loved Mum, everybody did eventually, but one thing I never quite got was, what the hell was she thinking? A girls' school? And yes, to add to the danger, I was a bit of a mummy's boy too. Why the danger? Bear with me. Anyway, there was I, little me, 4 years, 8 months and 10 days old, in a girls' school. Never let it be said that boys of 4 years, 8 months and 10 days don't realise how strange that is. Did I say I was a mummy's boy? Never so much as looked at a goose, let alone said boo to one. Oh, so much better. Sarah, my daughter, she's so happy there. Yes. So, why? Oh, it's just right, isn't it? So much safer, better. Yes. I was looking down at the sand for the most part, and there was someone else there who seemed to be there for the same reason. Blonde little girl. All I remember is the sandpit, and the bank with the pine trees, and the blonde girl. That's it. So why? Why me? What was it about me that had to be so different? I've heard since about other lone boys sent to convents or rather hemmed in secluded joints, usually the son of a teacher or priest or some such. But I was the son of an inoffensive, normal, well sort of, peace-loving, tax-paying, middle-class types who had neither taught nor taken holy orders. Yes, we were just nice, middling Englanders. A dad, mum and 3 children, slightly eccentric, with silly nicknames. Of course we had nicknames. Dad, he was Dar. Sarah, she was Ra or Rat. Josephine, Seth or Sephi. Peter, that's me, grew. Don't ask. And Mum, well, Mum was just Mum to everyone. Ra went to Leslie House. Leslie House was the annex of Bankton High on the other side of town. It was in a rather grand late Georgian house with a beautiful garden. Rather kindly headmistress, more like a dowager aunt than a head. Very Anne of Green Gables. If I'm completely honest, I wouldn't mind going there. Very cosy, very safe, and you got lots of attention. But then I was living in a matriarchy, almost. Sephi was still young. There was no educational challenge there. She was barely out of nappies. Wasn't even getting the Mrs. Ude treatment yet. Mrs. Ude, by the way, was the best ever play school teacher. Ever. She owned a nursery school just off Whitcomb Hill. She looked after the nice young things. It was all very Joyce Grenfell. Lilting voices, scraping chairs, piano music from somewhere, I can never quite remember. Malted biscuits, milk, Levenses, taken at 11 on the dot. Telly, play school exclusively. Perennially floral, hydrangeas, wisteria, lilacs, hardy roses. Long, thin garden outside with blue swing and pink slide. Potato prints and the smell of Play-Doh. That's where I'd been. That's where Seth went too afterwards. Yes, nursery school was easy, no controversy. Posh it might have been, to a fair extent, but it was as safe as Barthonian's Georgian houses. Uncontroversial, professional as they came, and really rather good. So why that school? Why the school in the middle of the steep hill on the other side of town? Well, there was the C word, of course. Comprehensives to you. For Mum, the new state school system was asking for trouble, wreaking havoc on decent people with their regard for form, structure, and the right thing to do. It showed complete disregard for tradition, hierarchy, merit, and attainment. Everything good, in other words. She knew she was right. She could see it from the grubby kids who went to St. John's. Even then I could sense she got it wrong. But then Mum wasn't just reacting to the local education system, she was becoming disillusioned with the whole shebang. Bath was not, after all, the centre of all things bright and beautiful. This was Bath in the late 60s, and she hadn't reckoned on all those lovely little shops in Southgate Street being about to be waylaid and replaced with a new shopping mall, whatever one of those was. Plus, and there was no getting away from it, the modern bit near the cinema was hideous, a monstrosity. In any case, Bathstones seemed to weather badly, and everything was getting a little, well, black. The people were a bit rude too, up themselves, pompous or brash or both. These things bugged her, and they influenced her. The current state of education, Paradise Lost, the people, lack of trust in a host of things, I suppose. So a private school from day one it would have to be. And as there were no private schools for 4-year-old onwards boys and girls, within sensible reach, Sarah's school would be the choice. In any case, it was really rather good. The Leslie House version in particular was top-notch. The only problem was that Leslie House would not take boys in kindergarten. So that was that. Off to the big version Peter would go. the other side of the city. Girls for Peter for the first 3 years of his schooling, then we would see. Why me? I had everything, but I had love mostly. Over-generous love, perhaps. It was all-consuming. Maybe the decision was made mostly because Mum just couldn't let the precious boy out of her womb. Smother him in feminine love for as long as possible. What was for sure was that it was all Mum's decision in the end, and no one else's. Mum made the decisions in our nice but dotty family, and Dad went along with them for the most part. He was the breadwinner, and she would spend the bread. So Mum's idea to send me to that school was one built on her own politics, love and protection, but mostly love. Send me to a school because it's safe. Send me to a school because the education's better, the reputation solid, according to the mores and prejudices of the time anyway. Who can blame her? Very shrewd, in fact, no? Except that it might have seemed slightly odd that I would be the only boy. Where are all the other boys whose mothers were as reasoned and as sensitive as mine? They can't all have been less clever, shrewd and prudent, could they? Why me? I would have taken the battering that a state primary might have, but probably wouldn't have, dealt me. I could even have avoided the canal bullying that came for the St John's and Beecham Cliffs kids when I was a few years older. But there it was. The decision was made, and as savvy and as sorted as I was at 4 years, 10 months and 20 days, there was no way I could have been expected to have counter-uttered, "Sending me to that school? Not on your Nelly." They wouldn't have listened anyway. The school sat high on a steep hill, one of 7 surrounding the once magnificent city, once the English Rome. It was peppered along Lansdowne Crescent, the slightly shabbier, obscured relation of the Royal Crescent, situated a little lower down Lansdowne Hill. Despite its relative obscurity, Lansdowne Crescent was, and still is, quite splendid, with its grand four-floored terraced houses, lording it over Bath's landscape. It was difficult to work out where the main entrance was, for peppering reasons. It was, in fact, located inconspicuously on the east side of Lansdowne Hill. Enter that way, and there really wasn't that much to notice. It was an early Edwardian, formless building with the usual odour of ammonia and slightly rancid linoleum pervading its corridors. Enter by the back gate, however, and it was a different story. Intricate wooded pathways leading to constantly flowering rockeries, a deep green bank with overbearing pines at the top. Walking tentatively down towards the open aspect of the bank that led to the incongruous teaching block, or a slab actually, I remember that smell, the fantastic lemony smell of the rough green leaf plant. Verbena, I think it was. Why did that smell mean so much? It wasn't just the lemon, it was the combination of fresh, moist air, lavender, lemon. And maybe it wasn't just the smell, it was the noise that came with it. Chirps, whistles, then the slightly menacing noise of girls, young and older, in the background. The finish, the sheen, the lid. The green banks led onto more fields, and on into the distance, so it seemed, to somewhere intensely countrified. It felt, even to an infant, ancient. Maids and urns and wells and wooden settlements from 300 years ago. Of course, when you're 4 years, 10 months and 20 days, when you first take in something like this, you don't really register it at all. Not completely, though you are affected by it. You can feel it. And it's more the associated memories, like music and assembly, the sound of the very young, of innocence perhaps, and how it fitted perfectly with its surrounds. Or leaving school early, as we all did in that first year, getting back in time for Listen with Mother, or Mary, Mungo and Midge, or Mr. Ben. The funny thing is, it's never wonder or awe I remember. It's a stranger feeling, like a calming drug, a fleeting moment of happiness, bliss, as they used to say. Probably bliss. So you didn't admire the views or take photos of or paint the flora and fauna and wonder at its colour and shape or try to record its sounds or bottle its smells despite the teacher's best efforts. You just lived there for a while and absorbed it like a sponge, absorbed its feminine culture. That's one of the main reasons why, to this day, I have a strangely intense relationship with the opposite sex. It's the same sense of calm, ease, but also vague excitement, and I guess distrust of that school environment and what was captured within it that has remained so firmly embedded, forever associated with females, wherever and whenever.